The brand new Ferrari F80 sure has stirred up some divisive opinions, from the new design and styling to a swap to a V6 engine. Today, during Finali Mondiali at Imola circuit, I'm going to share my true thoughts on this new hypercar with some points which will surprise you as it makes its debut to the public. I have another mission too, as there's a ton of action here, including Formula 1 cars out on track, displays of the greatest Ferraris of all time, and the FXX program, where I'm going to see if I can find a ride in the ultimate version of F80's predecessor, the FXX K Evo, based on the LaFerrari with the most intoxicating V12 soundtrack ever. Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello and welcome back to the channel. Let's go and see if we can hitch a ride in one of these and then go and find the brand new Ferrari F80. This is Finali Mondiali. In previous years, we've seen the Ferrari F12 TDF being introduced, the Daytona SP3, and this year, it's the turn of the F80. Now, not only do you have all of the Challenge Race Series out on track, but come and take a look here in the paddocks, because this is the XX garage. We are with the original FXX, based on the Ferrari Enzo, and we have not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 6, 7, 8, 9 of these in the one pit garage. This is all part of today's story, and my thoughts later on how the F8 is going to fit as part of this. After the FXX and the FXX Evo came the 599XX. This is one of the originals. You can spot some of the differences. And they often introduce the Evo package with an even bigger wing. And we've got, what, 6 of those in here and even more around before we go to the FXX Ks. It turns out there's a whole other garage. That one in blue electrico looks magnificent. Well, we've got 3 more here, another 3, another 6 in fact, 15 599XXs in total. These things based on the 599 GTB and the GTO, and actually spawned some parts that went into the SA Aperta as well. Absolutely insane to see them all here as the race is about to begin, but we're coming up this way. Now then, the FXX K Evo paddocks. This is insane. Of course, based on the LaFerrari, these have the V12. In fact, the K Evos have 1,050 horsepower, and there are so many of them in this pit box. Some familiar cars as well. This belongs to Garage 173. We know the guys. I joined them to drive their LaFerrari not all that long ago. This is my friend Greg B's FXX K Evo. I'm sure many of you who've been watching for a while will remember the amazing fun that I've had with Greg B over the years. Come on through though, because this is kind of mind-blowing. In fact, this one belongs to 93CF. I've actually been out in this car before as well at the Goodwood Festival of Speed Hill Climb for the shortest of runs with the owner. This is paradise, surrounded by the FXX K Evos. You can spot the difference. This is the Evo with the big full wing. The regular K have these winglets installed at the back. What a place to be right now. This is paradise. It seems like it's my lucky day. This is about to be my chariot with Garage 173 in the blue Corsa FXX K Evo, which is double cool because we have driven here to Italy in my Roma Spider in the same color as this. It's going to be insane because this was the last version of the predecessor to F80, right? The ultimate LaFerrari, no rules, unleashed for the track. I need to go and sign the waivers, get everything ready, grab some gear. We're going to be hopping inside. You're coming along for the ride. Then we'll go and find F80. But let's do this. FXX K Evo, let's go. It is very loud in here. It's about to be time. The cars are all gearing up, heading out to the pit lane. FXX K Evo paradise in the pit garage. This is absolutely incredible. Of course, the Garage 173 blue Corsa FXX K Evo about to fire. This is unreal right now. Ridiculous. That tingling through your whole body. The familiar green and orange. Glass back. 599XX as well. Unsurprisingly, there's a whole bit of a process to this. Even as a passenger, you need to wear the full hands and the helmet. It kind of goes without saying in a car with over 1,000 horsepower. So, gearing up, unprepared for this, just grabbed all the gear very quickly. in now after their warm-up laps. Real experience. So, gloves. Have I got everything? I hope I do. Let's go to the pit lane. We're mic'd up, cameras rolling. Out the pit lane here at Imola. Harnessed, everything's tight. FXX K Evo, here we go! Alright! Wow! The stopping power is intense. Sound is to die for, and it's screaming away. This is absolutely unreal. 280 something kilometers an hour, and then the downshift's catching up the other car. Rear wing deployed, like LaFerrari. Downshift's the instant rev, so high up the RPMs. It's just a ferocious kick in the back and so fun. You're like a ragdoll just along for the ride with the most heavenly soundtrack possible. What a feeling! Press the first button. We get full power, full battery unleashed, God, it makes a huge difference. You get to 290 on there. Holy smokes, what a thing. Back into the pit lane we go. What a ride. Thank you for that. That was absolutely phenomenal. The engine noise is like, just every shift is a symphony. Every upshift, downshift, everything that's happening. It's a real experience. Whew, it's going to need a little bit of time to process and take that in. Now this is where, when you've just stopped, it has to wait for the electrical system, right? Okay.
Don't get out.
Right, okay. Thank you. That was insane. Absolutely insane. Oh, that was epic. That was totally epic. Woo. The car is returning back in. This is so insane. The Garage 173 FXX K Evo. I mean, look at that. Look at that thing! Holy! I don't want to say it. I've had a bit of time to get my thoughts. Cars are still going out. The weather is changing on a sixpence. It is now pouring with rain. Oh my days. That is an insane experience. It's going to lead us on to going to look at F80 because this thing is just, it's mind-boggling. The sound, the feeling throughout the entirety of your body. Of course, the car is now plugged in, it's charging, it's got the hybrid system, the CARS system that's in the LaFerrari. Very different system to what's now in F80 as well. Oh, just being around the XX program is so exciting. And of course, one of these based on F80 in the future, this kind of thing, I don't even know what the future holds, but there is more to go and see. So the excitement levels just calm for a second. Let's go find the new Ferrari supercar. Oh my days, this is Ferrari Motorsport paradise. This is the hall that's leading us up to what we have come to see today. We have some of the best classics from the past, lots of the Formula One cars, and to talk, I suppose, through this, let's start right here, the 166 Intersport. We then have the 500 Mondial. This is the 250 Monza, another Monza, the 750, of course, the car that inspired the new Icona series. I've actually seen that very car before as it happens. Then the 500 TRC before the Holy Grail, the 250 GTO, one of the 33 original body-styled cars. That is verging on priceless, amazing to see. Next to that, one of the best-looking race cars of all time, the 330 P4, absolutely stunning machine. 328 GTB, a pair of F40 Competiziones, one of the race-going variants of the Ferrari F40, the 296 Challenge car. Keep coming through because we have some of the F1 cars from the 80s. We're talking Villeneuve, Tambay, for example. Then there's an interview happening here with two of the 499Ps, the victors from the two outings at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Yes, the two times Ferrari took part with the 499P in the Hypercar class, they have won the world's most famous 24-hour race. Plenty of F1 cars again from the different eras through to Leclerc, one of the more recent cars. Over this side, we continue through to the 90s and the 2000s, obviously the Schumacher years and the immense success that Ferrari had. I mean, just look at this lineup, near on priceless with all of these cars. Some the real cars, some that have been the likes of Goodwood, some of course that are show cars, just filling in the gaps and the space for the time being. But everywhere I look, just knowing what we're surrounded by and where all of this is leading us to, up towards the end, and the car, the purpose, the reason for visiting today. Here it is, center stage, the Ferrari F80. It is here, a new spec to take a look at. We need to head out though in just a moment to see the other car leading the parade and hopefully hear the V6, the most divisive topic for any supercar this year. But take a look at this. In fact, a few notable differences that I'm going to draw your attention to in a moment. But of course, this celebrates the upcoming 80th anniversary of Ferrari. It's the big six after the 288, the F40, F50, Enzo, LaFerrari, and now F80. Take a look at this car though in the bright yellow. Notice at the front how between the headlights it has that insert in glossy exposed carbon fibre, which gives it a very different look to when it's in the complete gloss black. As it spins around as well, you'll spot that these wheels are full silver as opposed to the dual tone with the exposed carbon we saw before, and in fact they're wearing Pirelli P0 Corsa tyres instead of the Michelin Cup 2Rs. We've also seen this with the rear wing extended to get a look at quite how imposing that actually is when it's up in the high downforce mode. This car against the yellow exterior has the blue Alcantara on the inside in that 1+ seating configuration where the driver is sat on a movable seat just in front of the passenger who's fixed into the tub. But this has that 1,200 horsepower hybridized V6 powertrain, the E four-wheel drive with the electric motors, the MGU-K, MGU-H for battery charging and regeneration. There are so many things about it that we're yet to fully understand. The active suspension, the active camber, so many different elements to this. I'm looking forward to hearing the sound that's going to come out of the Inconel exhaust system very shortly. On the rear deck, you've got those 6 louvres with the 6-cylinder engine that lies within. This thing in person is such an incredible thing to behold. We need to talk more about that and the concept of what makes a car look so different when you're seeing it up close and personally, especially when it's a radically new design, new styling, new car like this. But I tell you what, I think we need to head outside to go and see if we can take a listen to the F80. I'm quite excited for what currently lurks right behind that garage shutter. The F80 is right there. It's about to pop out. We're going to see and hear it. It started raining again, just at the wrong time. But nonetheless, it's F80 time. It's time to actually see and hear what this thing is like. As great as these 296s sound, I hope they actually turn off in a moment, because as soon as the F80 pops out of there, we definitely want to be able to hear it, which we won't with these running. It's obviously a similar derivative of engine, the V6 in these things, but they are properly unrestricted and very loud. The shutter is raising, and here is the car in the pit box, the F80, ready to go out in just a moment. I think the engine must already be running and warmed up, but that's what I've been waiting to see. I'm going to see it on the move for the first time in just a second, coming out of here, then heading up the pit lane, and here it goes. Almost impossible to hear over the challenge cars. It looks good though. It looked really, really good as it went out there. Any moment now, it's coming for the flyby. Wait for it, and it should come. Here we go. Hard to get the angle, but there it was. I'm perched under here. But yeah, take a listen to that going past. I've got to say though, on the video of it out on track, the live video feed, with that wing up, that thing looks insane. That is incredible out on track like that. Look at that. Mega performance. I mean, obviously not ideal conditions today, but what a thing. It's coming back then. Here, I think, to line up for some photo shoots. That's so cool out there. So cool. A ton of other action happening. I think it's going to be a lineup of all of these amazing cars. Challenge cars going out. What a sound. We've got Challenge GT3s, all sorts of different Ferrari mods. I mean, look at the F1 garages opposite us. And those are the 499Ps. Number 50 led the way that won at Le Mans, and number 83 behind won the Lone Star at COTA only last month. Somewhere over there, I was about to say, are some F1 cars warming up, going out for some demo laps. Now that's a sound. Now this is epic. It looks like it's time for everyone to head off back towards the pits. F80 takes the lead. Just can't hear it at all over that stuff, unsurprisingly. Look what is returning to the paddock down here on its own currently. I'm sure it's going to be ushered very quickly into the pit box, but I want to come and take a listen, if we can, to the sound of this thing before it completely disappears from our sight for today. Sounds very like 296 from here. Burble of the 6-cylinder, but of course quite quiet compared to the speakers overhead and the noise that they're making. Very like the 296. The most incredible lineup of the FXX cars. Wow, wow. This goes on and on and on. I've filmed this one before. I know the previous and current owner of this one. I love those winglets. It's one of the big questions though, right? All of these are all equipped with enormous V12s, naturally aspirated 12-cylinder power plants. Every one of them. And that's the big question that brings us to this, a V6. A new chapter, a new style. It's amazing to be at the front and how you can see the aero, the upper surfaces. This car is so flat over the top, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't have that kick to it. It's unfair to have it in this company, really. It should be in the company of modern road legal cars, because that's what it comes down to. To be a homologated road car these days, it just can't have a sound like this. Love the FXX. That noise, that is the most agricultural sound of them all, which is epic. It's amazing to think this isn't even all of the cars. I love all the stickers on the window though. That's every Ferrari event that they've gone to, the XX days. A lot of the owners keep those on. Here, for example, all the stickers down the side. So insane. As you can imagine, it is incredibly busy here, but we've come to the hall with the current lineup of Ferrari cars. because we need to talk about engines. With the F80 and its V6, this has been the most monumentally discussed topic of all time, especially in a world where its predecessors, the F50 Enzo and LaFerrari had V12s, and the likes of the Puro Sangue still managed to have a 6.5 litre 12-cylinder lump up front. The SUV that's not an SUV, the 4-seat, 4-door Ferrari. I love mine, don't get me wrong, I love that engine, but it's an interesting topic of conversation. Even the newly introduced 12 Cilindri is literally named the 12-cylinder because it's a tribute to this engine. 830 horsepower of Super GT, simultaneously launched as both the Spider that we have here and also coming further along, the Coupe just alongside, which is going to be joining my collection in not too long. But with these and with the Icona Daytona SP3, also with a V12, what's the story with F80? Now, the Ferrari portfolio obviously has some other cars. We've got the Roma and the Roma Spider with a 3.9 litre twin-turbo V8, the SF90 and the SF90 XX, both as coupes and Spiders, with a 4 litre hybridized V8, and then the 296 with a 3 litre twin-turbo hybrid V6. Now, the idea with the Ferrari supercars is that they are the pinnacle of motorsports at that time. In Formula One, the cars race with a V6. In the World Endurance Championship, the hypercars have a V6. The 296, as anybody who owns one or has driven one extensively will tell you, has one of the most responsive, fun engines to drive with out there. The sound of it is amazing. The Piccolo V12, as Ferrari call it. So the idea here is to bring that latest motorsport to a road car. A V6 is smaller, it's lighter, it's more responsive. If you had, for example, one of these that we've got back here, the V12, this is a big old lump. To squeeze one of these into that body frame with all of the aero would be nigh on impossible. So the idea is to make it what you currently see in motorsport. That's what Ferrari's always been about, right? Racing and bringing it to the road. Now, I've had my Ford GT for nearly, well, it's about 6 years since I got it. It was introduced nearly a decade ago with the V6. And at the time, that was a big topic of discussion. Ford downsizing from the V8. But I tell you what, you actually grow to really like it. The same with the AMG 1, one of my favorite cars. That has the 1.6 litre 6-cylinder in it, and it's one of the best cars out there right now, to be completely honest. It's been an immense success because it brings motorsport to the road. And the idea here is that although a V12 is amazing, it's a little bit of a lazier driving experience, right? It's not as snappy and responsive as the V6 can be. The new engine in the F80 gives 900 horsepower from the combustion engine alone, and it revs to 9,200 RPM, and it's an evolution of what we know from this car, which I can tell you is utterly amazing. So I find this really interesting. Yes, it's not a V12, but I love that the Ferrari portfolio still has the V12s, and even the Icona series cars can differentiate from the supercars and create this changing experience, right? Different cars offering different purposes, different things at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. So I think we're going to get used to this more quickly than it feels right now. Yes, its predecessors had the V12, but we're going to start to understand this more as more time goes by. To give you some kind of context, a V12 is a big lump. Looks incredible, but to fit that into the F80 would have required a very different car to what's been released. I want to compare something with you that you might not have thought about when it comes to this, because the other massive topic is the design. People have been not so complimentary of how the F80 looks, and there are a few elements to that. The first is that when you see it in person, you understand much more of what's going on than what you see in the renders or even through a video. It's quite a complex car in terms of what's happening, this new design language from Ferrari. But there's something that I've seen before. I've seen it quite a few times over the years, and I want to talk in particular about the first video I uploaded of the McLaren Senna about 6 or 7 years ago. That car was so radically different to anything McLaren had released at that point that the comments that came in, to read some of them out to you, looks like Mansouri got their hands on it. I'm placing my hopes on the BP23, hopefully it will look better. That became the Speedtail. P1, classy clean cut. P15, WTF. Looks like a homemade replica of a P1 GTR. I cannot believe McLaren okayed this design, comically ugly. I think Ayrton deserved a better car. If by polarizing you mean hideous, then definitely correct. The P1 looks better in my opinion. The comments at the time were absolutely scathing of the design of the Senna because it was so out there. Fast forward, and I think you'll find many people now actually quite like it. They've grown to understand how it's scientifically beautiful, to use the term that we featured a lot back at the time. And something that's really interesting is how people don't remember what they felt back then, because it happens over such a long period. I think, and I would place bets, that in 5 years' time, if you see something about this car you'll probably quite like it. I think you'll get more familiar with the design language. I've seen this many times with so many different cars over the years that when they arrive, it's all the things that are different that shock you. They're not what you're used to. Yet with this, there are a lot of them happening at the same time. Engine, the design language, everything, all in the one release of the F80. And that makes it the pinnacle. That's why it's the flagship supercar, but it's going to take time to adapt to some of the different things about this car. Check out the specification, the metallic red paintwork with the dual tone stripe contrasting against it, and look at the red carbon fiber. Tinted red carbon throughout, the number 26 over the front, also painted on the door along with the painted shields and the contrast gold wheels. What a stunning specification for the 812 Competizione. This is really smart. I like that a lot. My take then on the F80 is we're getting towards the end of the day. 3 points I'd like to touch on. The third, I haven't actually mentioned at all up to this point. And to do so, we're here in front of the SF90 XX Spider, the very one I drove. I cannot wait for mine. But F80, the flagship. And it's interesting how that impacts these almost as well. The first point is the engine, the V6. I love my Ford GT's engine. I love the AMG 1. I have no problems with bringing that engine from Motorsports. I think down the line, we're going to understand that that was more this period, and it's going to be okay. Yes, it's not a naturally aspirated V12, and a moment ago we actually had a cold start of probably an 812 or something up the road. It sounded amazing, but that's not the technology of now, and that's what the pinnacle supercar is supposed to be. The other cars in the lineup can fill that gap that's left as a void. Then we've got the design. Yes, it's controversial. It's not as pretty as the LaFerrari was, although I have to say, when the LaFerrari launched, it wasn't entirely unanimously loved in the way that it is now. That's grown over time, which is very relevant here because these new styling cues, like I said, I'd love to look back in 5 years' time. I think we're going to be really quite enamored by it down the line. The third point, though, the one that I didn't mention yet, price and exclusivity. 799 cars for 3.6 million euros. To me, for that many cars, the price needs to come down a touch, or to make fewer cars and keep that higher price tag. The combination of both is where I think this might struggle. When it comes to the investment potential of these kinds of cars, which a lot of people are thinking about, that's going to be an interesting one. Once there are potentially Apertas and XX cars as well, that's going to go over 1,000 F80s. That's a lot of models. This brings me to the XX. There are the same number of XX coupes, stradales, as there are F80s. For sure, the F80 Aperta, if it's made in future, will be rarer than the 599 of the XX Spider, but this has suddenly become a really quite cool car, and I'm very excited about it. I'd be incredibly excited if I had an F80 coming, don't get me wrong, but it's interesting to talk to so many people around the paddock and understand a bit more about it. Anyway, enough waffling for now. Thanks for joining here at Finali Mondiali. If you like these kinds of videos, these kinds of cars, check out what's up right over here. But that's it for this time, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!